I think I just figured out why the US, UK, and France are so adamantly pro-Israel right now. Like, we all knew it had to do with money, but I'm gonna tell you exactly how. The French and the British. I think it's also important
Okay, wait, hold on.
to own the Suez.
This guy, I saw this guy posted on my subreddit, and I saw it said Jordan Peterson versus Destiny rap battle. I thought it was gonna be the cringiest thing in the world. I thought this is a high effort meme, okay? I give this guy a 8.75 out of 10, okay? High quality memery. I'm gonna do some extra shit while this guy adds me on Discord. You guys listen to this. Jesus.
Sit down, son, and let me tell you a tale about how to rescue your father from the belly of the whale. I traveled the world, filling stadiums wherever I go. Meanwhile, your wife's getting fucked while you're playing Factorio. Bisexual, blue hair, leftist, yep, you check all the boxes for BPD, autism, and being obnoxious. Think because you talk fast and pull optical tricks, you're saying anything of substance will suck my dick. 40 years I studied philosophy and discovered the fact that my highest moral imperative is kicking your ass and saving the West from postmodern neo-Marxists like you. You left your webcam on, Steven. How about you clean your room? When I'm finished with you, I will have converted your fans. They'll be so moved by my arguments that they'll stop being trans. I offer young men hope, meaning, knowledge, and facts. Your fans watch you defend incest? Yeah, good luck with that. Sorry, Steven. You know I had to do it to you. Steven? Oh, God.
I'm a little disappointed. I thought we were here to debate, but the metaphysics of the back of my hand eating your face. Not listen to dog ad homs while you try not to cry. But if you want to make this blood sports, you pick the wrong guy. Every time I see you, you're crying and bitching and seething and sucking the of a religion you don't even believe in, and losing your license. Soon they're gonna rescind your diploma. When I'm finished with you, you'll wish that you were back in a coma. You were semi-coherent as a professor back in the day, before your obsession with dick surgery rotted your brain. The benzos your mind, Jordan. You can't get back on top of this. Leave you sucking for Percocets like Milo Yiannopoulos. It was Hassan, Fox, Bob, Seven Max, and yourself. When the manifesto drops, you'll be another notch in the belt. And when it's all over, Jordan, you ain't getting to heaven, cause you just got your ass wrecked by a dude who's 5'7". Okay, well, it was nice knowing you, my Deuterino.
Just a quick fact check. I am 5'8", by the way. That was not true.
I have one more verse. Going after my addiction, man, that just feels wrong. Must be hard living in that 6'3" shallow with Hassan. I'd stick around longer, Steven, but I have lessons to teach. Mama Lena gets strange, man, on her by Abba and preach. StarCraft nerd, you think you're smarter than me? I taught at Harvard, bitch. I have a PhD. You wanna cancel me? Watch me for 40 and slip? How about you keep your girl off of this Canadian dick?
I bang OnlyFans models every night of the week. Your fans only give them money for a peek at their feet. I wreck conservatives by day, wreck pussy by night. And at least people actually wanna my wife. I built leftist YouTube in the conservative age, while you progressed to Piaget's pre-operational stage. You used to be a professor, but you just got outclassed. So take your metaphysical substrate and shove it right out your ass. That's D to the double G, bitch.
I give it a high effort meme. Probably AI the entire voice too, so good job.
I think I just figured out why the US, UK, and France are so adamantly pro-Israel right now. Like, we all knew it had to do with money, but I'm gonna tell you exactly how. There's a shout out to my uncle who told me to do some research on the Ben Gurion Canal, and I did, and I took notes. Now, who is Ben Gurion? He is known as the founding father of Israel. He was the first prime minister, yes, you guessed it, in 1948. And this canal is a proposal to connect the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea through here, right? But we already have a connection, and it's called the Suez Canal. And if you don't know the history, let's get into it. The Suez Canal was opened in 1869, and the Suez Canal Company was given a 99-year lease to own the Suez Canal. And guess who owned the Suez Canal Company? The French and the British. I think it's also important
Okay, wait, hold on.
to own the Suez Canal. And guess who owned the Suez Canal Company?
Okay, here's what I want to know. I want to know this. I want to know this so bad, okay? So she says she does research. She showed us her notes. Now she's doing an educational video. And she's like, guess who owned the Suez Canal Company? Spoiler alert, not the Egyptians. Egypt wasn't a country yet. Did you miss that part? Like, what was she? Yeah, like, Not to say that it's right or wrong. I think it was what was the name of the subdivision of Egypt? There's a name for Ottoman Empire, name for Egypt territory. What was it called? Fuck, I forget what it was called. There's a name for this part of the territory, but technically the Ottomans, I believe, the Khedivate. I believe the Ottomans did sign on to the treaty for its use, or were a party to the convention. I think it was the Constantinople Convention, I think. I think this is where everybody kind of agreed to keep waterways open and... let me check. I thought they were a party to this. Maybe they weren't. Hold on, let me check. Secondly, true that the people of Egypt didn't own it. Sure, but I feel like it's an important qualifier, okay? In case of any event threatening the security of the free passage of the canal, they shall meet on the summons, blah, blah, blah. Who built the Suez Canal? Was it the Ottomans, or was this like a joint effort by the British as well? I don't remember. Let me check. Brit losers. God, everything I read about the British, they just seem like losers. Was it the French and the British, I think, that initially funded this? Or hold on, I'm just curious who initially funded the construction. France and other parts of Europe. All French shares were quickly sold in France. A contemporary British skeptic claimed one thing is sure, our local merchant community doesn't pay practical attention at all to this grand work, and it is legitimate to doubt that the canal's receipts could ever be sufficient to recover its maintenance fee. It will never become a large ship's accessible way in any case. Dumbass. But...
the French and the British. I think it's also important to note that the British Empire originally was opposed to building the canal because they thought it would directly threaten their economy. But instead they just decided, let's benefit from it, bought 44% of the shares in 1875, so they were all good.
Well, I mean, because they funded it, right? Like, not to say that it's right or wrong, or, I mean, you can argue that there's a form of, like, people used to argue with the IMF, or they argue with China, that, like, funding projects in other countries might not be okay, but, I mean, you can make that argument, but, like, I mean... it's reductive. I feel like this is a very... I just hate the, like, West bad reductive takes. They're, like, just, they're just so, like, thought terminating.
Now, in 1888, the maritime powers, Great Britain, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Spain, France, Italy, the Netherlands, Russia, and Turkey, signed this thing called the Convention of Constantinople. What's important about this is it said that every single nation should be able to use the canal, whether at war, at peace. It cannot be denied access to anyone. In 1949, Egypt denied Israel access after the Nakba, after they did what they did. That was a huge deal. It was a big statement because of this. Now, in 1956, when the US was basically having a proxy war with the Soviet Union in that region, the Egyptian president at the time, Gamal Abdel Nasser, decided to nationalize the Suez Canal, so take it away from the British and French-owned company, essentially because the US reneged on a previous agreement to finance the Aswan Dam project that was for the Nile, getting water and electricity to the Egyptian population.
Okay, when we say reneged, though, it's not like the U.S. was getting anything for this, right? Like we were willing to fund this if we thought that Egypt was going to be a bit more politically loyal to us than the Soviet Union, and then it seemed like that wasn't going to be the case. So the United States was like, "Fuck you, we're not going to fund this. We're not going to fund this at all." It's not like we had an obligation to, was it? I don't think they gave us anything for this, did they? Let's see, Aswan Dam. America and the United Kingdom offered to help finance construction of the High Dam with a loan of $270 million in return for Nasser's leadership in resolving the Arab-Israeli conflict, while opposed to communism, capitalism, and imperialism, lay true epic centrist XD. Nasser identified as a tactical neutralist and sought to work with both the US and the USSR for Egyptian and Arab benefit. The UN criticized a raid by Israel against Egyptian forces in Gaza in 1955. Nasser realized that he could not portray himself as the leader of pan-Arab nationalism if he could not defend his country militarily against Israel. In addition to his development plans, he looked to quickly modernize his military, and he first turned to the US for aid. Dulles and Eisenhower told Nasser that the U.S. would supply him with weapons only if they were used for defensive purposes and if he accepted American military personnel for supervision and training. Nasser did not accept these conditions and consulted the USSR instead. Although Dulles believed that Nasser was only bluffing and that the USSR would not aid Nasser, he was wrong. The USSR promised Nasser a quantity of arms in exchange for a deferred payment of Egyptian grain and cotton. On the 27th of September 1955, Nasser announced an arms deal, with Czechoslovakia acting as a middleman for the Soviet support. Instead of attacking Nasser for returning to the Soviets, Dulles sought to improve relations with them. In 1955, the US and the UK pledged 56 and 14 million, respectively, towards construction of the High Aswan Dam. Though the Czech arms deal created an incentive for the US to invest in Aswan, the UK cited the deal as a reason for repealing its promise of dam funds. Dulles was angered more by Nasser's diplomatic recognition of China, which was in direct conflict with Dulles' policy of containment of communism. Several other factors contributed to the U.S. deciding to withdraw its offer of funding for the dam. Dulles believed that the USSR would not fulfill its commitments of military aid. He was also irritated by Nasser's neutrality and attempts to play both sides of the Cold War. At the time, other Western allies in the Middle East, including Turkey and Iraq, were resentful that Egypt, a persistently neutral country, was being offered so much aid. Okay. But...
etc., etc. This was a massive shift, a huge move in the region and globally. Probably why it was also used as a battleground in the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. Now, after the Arab-Israeli War and the Geneva Conference, lies the Suez Canal, so take it away from the British and French-owned company, essentially because the US reneged on a previous agreement to finance the Aswan Dam project that was for the Nile, getting water and electricity to the Egyptian population, etc., etc. This was a massive shift, a huge move in the region and globally.
Is she saying the huge move was the United States not funding the dam? Maybe it was. If it was a huge deal, I missed it, I think, but...
Probably why it was also used as a battleground in the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. Now, after the Arab-Israeli War and the Geneva Conference, etc., etc., what you need to know is Israel and Egypt signed a peace treaty at Camp David, signed by Jimmy Carter. This is from a US government website, by the way. My sources are checked, tried, and trusted. And the US was given credit for orchestrating a peace treaty between these two countries. Again, why were they involved from the beginning? Who knows? The US has always been here.
The U.S. has not always been that heavily involved in these particular countries, but okay, good memes, good memes.
1979 now. Should all be cool. A peace treaty was signed. Like, everything is perfect. Suez Canal is open to everyone. Cool, great, right? Wrong. 16 years before this, and even before the Arab-Israeli...
Thus, you have no examples of so-called IDF terrorism. Why do you say earlier in the yesterday stream the IDF always prosecutes soldiers violating law? Bro, there have been several large-scale massacres that have occurred in the history of Israel's conflict with other countries around them. To say that there's no evidence of this is just fucking retarded. I'm pretty sure, was it Dayan himself? Dayan? I'm pretty sure Moshe Dayan himself, I think, has been involved in two of them, purportedly. What were the names? 1955 Q massacre. What the fuck was it called? Fuck, I don't remember the name of it. But I don't know why you're arguing this. If you want, you can probably just Google Israel. Oh no, it was Sharon, not Dayan. You can literally Google these and you can go through like the fucking uncountable massacres that have occurred literally on both sides of this conflict. Well, on all 20 fucking sides or whatever. But yes, the Israel themselves, Kibya, or the two that happened up in Lebanon, or there's or any other number of huge reprisals from the IDF in the West Bank when it was owned by Jordan. Yeah, I mean the what was it? The Israeli secret plan to do terrorist attacks in Egypt to try to turn the tide against the Egyptian president. Was the Lavon affair? You can find these on both sides. So pretend that Israel hasn't been involved in this is ridiculous, okay? This is all the way back in 1954, okay? Stop.
War. the US Department of Energy and the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory had been making a plan for something else. In 1963, they made a classified plan to help excavate the Negev desert hills with 520 nuclear bombs to help create a canal. This was only made public in 1993 and 1994, depending on the sources you check. So at the time of the peace treaty, nobody knew this was going on, except, of course, Jimmy Carter. Now, we could also talk about how the war was a product of collusion between Britain, France, and Israel, and they decided to initiate the war.
Wait, what are we talking about? Hold on, I'm sorry.
20 nuclear bombs, something else. In 1963, they made a classified plan to help excavate the Negev desert hills with 520 nuclear bombs to help create a canal. This was only made public in 1993, 1994, depending on the sources you check. So at the time of the peace treaty, nobody knew this was going on, except, of course, Jimmy Carter.
Oh, by the way, just as a quick thing, a lot of people will say like, oh, there were secret plans to do this or there were secret plans to do that. Countries are making contingency plans all the time for like almost everything. Like it's pretty common that like, I'm trying to think of some of the most like extraordinary ones. I want to say around like World War II, like or post World War II during the Cold War, like the United States had contingency plans regarding like nuclear attacks and everything too. But people will look at these like contingency plans and be like, oh my God, they thought that this was going to happen and blah, blah, blah. Which is dumb. Their ideas of nuking hurricanes.
Now, we could also talk about how the war was a product of collusion between Britain, France, and Israel, and they decided to initiate the war, but we'll save that for another time. You might be asking yourself, why do they want to build another canal? Like, we have the Suez Canal right here. Why do we need a canal through here? This is where the money comes in, baby. Without the Suez Canal right here, ships from Asia would have to go all the way down and around Africa in order to reach Europe. This canal right here currently sees the passage of 12 to 15%, depending on the source you check, of the world's trade and 10% of the global oil.
Do you want to be optically on one side or the other? For Israel-Palestine, I mean, like in terms of like overall support, I mean, I probably lean a little bit more on the Israeli side, but I feel like I feel like the concessions both sides have to make are pretty great. I say this a lot, and it's probably not realistic politically in Israel, but I truly do feel like unless there are like really good arguments I haven't heard for, I truly feel like every single West Bank Israeli settlement should be fucking demolished and pulled back. Or if you want to argue for West Bank settlements, at the very most, you can argue for the ones that if you were to annex the territory, it would be land swaps done with Palestinians, and it would just be the ones that are already bordering Israel. But the idea of having like non-contiguous Palestinian land or Jewish enclaves in settlements that are set up near like Hebron and shit is cringe. Cringe. Destiny cringe, Lord. David versus Games, cringe. Absolutely cringe. Absolutely cringe.
Distribution. Just this little canal right here. And who benefits from this? Egypt, of course. It's their canal, right? In 2023, they broke records and made a revenue of $9.4 billion US dollars. Yay for Egypt, right? Well, how do you think the US, the UK, France, and Israel feel about that? Not good. Suez Canal is not ideal. Up until 2014, you could only go one way, which meant for 6 hours it went in one direction and 6 hours it went in the other, which was super not efficient. It was also not wide enough to accommodate some of the largest ships in the world. So what happened in 2021? You might remember this. One of the world's biggest ships jammed the Suez Canal, leading to approximately $900 million of losses. And the US was really not happy about this, and the Pentagon released a statement that this made it.
Thoughts on Golan Heights? Should Israel give that up as well? I don't understand. Maybe somebody can tell me, or maybe it's because I don't know much about a current Syrian leadership. Like, I don't know what Assad thinks about Israel right now. I'm pretty sure historically Syrian and Israeli relations have been unbelievably bad. But I feel like aren't the Golan Heights like just the perfect bargaining chip for a similar peace treaty with Syria, the same way the Sinai Peninsula was with Egypt? Like, could that not be negotiated? I don't think that Israel should give. I don't think Israel should give the Golan Heights back without a peace treaty to Syria. That's just me. But if Syria is willing, or maybe it should be Syria and Lebanon, actually. I'm not sure. I don't know. But Can you explain what the settlements are? Is it Jewish people moving to Palestinian-controlled territory? Yes. The settlements are like all the worst strawmans that you hear about what Jewish people and Israelis are like are actually the settlers, in my opinion.
Difficult for the movement of their military vessels, specifically to Israel, but not to where they had other ways. Now, when they're planning the Ben Gurion Canal, they're planning to have it 50 meters deep, which is 10 meters deeper than the Suez Canal, and 200 meters wide, which will facilitate the biggest ships in the world going in both directions. Not only that, but directly competing with the Suez Canal, Israel projects that it would make them an annual revenue of about $6 billion a year. Plus. And now for the interesting part. There's one feature about the Suez Canal that's also really inconvenient, and that's the fact that it's built on pretty sandy shores. Now, I'm not an engineer. Now, from what I read, sandy shores are pretty inconvenient for a canal. They constantly need maintenance. But where Israel wants to dish it out to the Mediterranean Sea, it's a rocky land texture, which is ideal for these conditions. Let's zoom into this. That's the Gaza Strip. How annoying is the placement of the Gaza Strip for them? They have to actually turn the canal around so that it avoids this piece of land. Do you see what I'm getting at? They don't want ships to have to do this entire round and add a little time and inconvenience to their journey and have such close proximity to Gaza. What if they just built it through Gaza? Oh no, wait, they don't want to do that. They don't want to help the Palestinian economy. What do you mean? That would defeat the entire purpose, wouldn't it? Unless they took that land. Yeah, that's what's...
Oh, and then also, hold on, fuck. One more other quick thing. I'm sorry. I see this. Okay, this is stupid. I don't know how to watch this. Where am I? Fuck, where is it? Okay, the argument that if the surrounding Arab countries cared about Palestinians, they should just take all the Palestinians as refugees. That's a retarded argument. Stop posting this argument in my subreddit. Stop saying it. This one. Who wants to free Palestinians? Who wants to accept Palestinian refugees? First of all, I'm pretty sure most, if not every surrounding Arab country has taken in a ton of Palestinian refugees already, number one. But also number two, if Palestinians feel like they want a state and they want representation of that state and they want borders with Israel, all these Arab countries taking in a ton of refugees, not only does it not serve that purpose, it actually hurts that purpose because the Palestinians have even less of a claim to those particular borders because now there's less people there, right? This is the most retarded argument ever. Okay, it's not a good argument. It's not real. It doesn't solve anything. It doesn't get you close to anything. And it's literally, it's just a stupid, Haven't you said verbatim, I wonder why Egypt doesn't accept any refugees? That's more in regards to the actual blockade that Egypt also maintains against Gaza. If the humanitarian crisis was so fucking horrible that like these people need to escape and they're all going to die and blah, blah, blah. But it's not the idea that like, oh, Egypt should just host 2 billion Palestinians or whatever, right? I don't think. Sorry, hold on. I've got a Jewish friend that sends me a lot of shit when they get mad on Instagram. I agree with you that the settlements are cringe, but it's hard to convince the average Israeli right-winger that settlements are cringe when Ariel Sharon pulled out of Gaza, which were the same type of settlements you see in the West Bank, and what did we get in return for pulling our settlements? Exactly. Sure, so that's kind of true, and I'm a little sympathetic towards that, but Sharon also unilaterally pulled the settlements out, which was not very smart. I mean, like, you can't say like, oh, I didn't get anything for it when you did negotiate anything for it. At the very least, you should have negotiated something for it. And then if the Palestinians failed to uphold their word, you could at least point to that. But I mean, he unilaterally did it. It was with no discussion. Like, okay, we're just going to pull our shit out of the Gaza Strip, you know? I agree settlements are bad, but what do you think of the argument that settlements provide a tacit rationale for maintaining a security structure in the West Bank? It seems like Israel feels like a two-state solution with no Israeli security structure in the West Bank. Invariably leads to Iran. No, there can be, I think that Israel can argue for like, I think in Camp David, it was for 3 different military installations. I think that's fine. I think they can argue for that. But the whole settlement city stuff, I just think having like an ultra non-contiguous country is just super cucked. Because of settlers, I think it's cucked.